president-elect himself. On Friday, we were given the opportunity to do just that. Joe and I went to Mar-a-Lago to meet personally with President-elect Trump. It was the first time we have seen him in 7 years.
Now, we talked about a lot of issues, including abortion, mass deportation, threats of political retribution against political opponents, and media outlets. We talked about that a good bit. And it's going to come as no surprise to anybody who watches this show, has watched it over the past year or over the past decade, that we didn't see
divisive issues. And for those asking why we would go speak to the president-elect during such fraught times, especially between us, I guess I would ask back, why wouldn't we?
So why wouldn't you meet with Donald Trump? I'm thinking really hard. Well, maybe here's why. These are your own words.
the retweeting of neo-Nazi videos, Charlottesville. I mean, I could go on and on. What he said about majority black countries. That is tearing more at the fabric of America than attacks on the Twin Towers did. We rebuilt from that. We became stronger because of that. But this seems to me a far graver threat to the idea of America.
If Republicans continue this line of thinking, if they continue their support for Donald Trump, they needn't fool themselves. A second Trump administration would destroy the Department of Justice, would destroy the FBI. This is not a reach. I could go back and talk about Nazi Germany, and I'd do it without any concerns whatsoever. And if people can't start drawing the parallels, well, you're just stupid, or you have your head in the sand, or you're one of them. When you look at a Republican nominee, a potential Republican nominee that's talking about terminating the Constitution, he said, terminate the Constitution, arrest political opponents using the Justice Department, assassinate generals that weren't sufficiently politically loyal to him, saying that he was going to take the FCC and bring it in to the White House, and he would decide what networks were on and what networks were not on.
Lisa, I unfortunately saw that last one in real time. He literally said Donald Trump would assassinate generals and use SEAL Team 6. And now you're going to go meet with him? Sorry, you're both phonies.
Haley, I can't get over this story, right? I don't think any of us can. It's like, how does this call go, right? Like, yeah. Oh, hey, Don. Okay, so I'm sorry I called you a Nazi for years. And like...
Watch this. I will never sit with him. I don't think I'm going to have to. I don't think I'm going to have to make a decision.
I've heard a lot of folks on the left coming after Joe and Mika saying, don't normalize him. Well, 75 million plus American voters normalized Donald Trump by making him President-elect Donald Trump.
I don't think you need to sit down for 90 minutes at Mar-a-Lago and kiss his ring to be able to speak truth.
Kimberly, I thought this was fascinating. I thought that the very scripted...
Wouldn't we? 5 years of political warfare has deeply divided Washington and the country. We have been as clear as we know how in expressing our deep concerns about President Trump's actions and words in the coarsening of public debate. But for nearly 80 million Americans, election denialism, public trials, and January 6th were not as important as the issues that moved them to send Donald Trump back to the White House with their vote. Joe and I realized it's time to do something different. And that starts with not only talking about Donald Trump, but also talking with him.
As somebody close to Donald Trump told me this past weekend, this is a president who's not seeking re-election. So maybe, just maybe, now could be the time for both parties to get to work. And I know, given the jarring headlines that we read every day, that may seem like a stretch, but think about this. Of the 150 million votes cast, Donald Trump got
50%. Kamala Harris got about 49%. So I don't know. Seems to make sense for leaders of both parties to seek common ground if it's possible at all. And I will tell you, a lot of Democratic leaders we've talked to this past week since the election have told Mika and me it's time for a new approach. And when I say top Democrats, I mean top Democrats. They said, we're open, and this was before we talked to Donald Trump. They said, listen, we're open to working with the incoming president if the incoming president is open to working with us.
Yeah, the question is, though, how do we get there? Hyperbole and personal attacks will not work. My hair on fire doesn't work. We've all seen that. What also does not work is threatening political opponents with arrest, harassment, and even jail. That is a failed path. Recent history has proven that impeachments and trials turn those on trial into political martyrs and only make them more popular with the American people. Just ask Bill Clinton and Donald Trump. We know this will be a consequential presidency. The question is whether it will be constructive. It will take a new approach from all sides, from both parties,